When I'm in curse mode or difficult mode, don't talk to me about gift. Because it doesn't feel like a gift, right? This is a pain in the butt, this is hard, this isn't fair, I don't like it, I don't want it. But here's the part that I'll offer to you guys. You guys are seniors, right? Mm-hmm. How many here find themselves in a situation that you don't like, you don't want it, you have to do it anyway, and you don't want to deal with it?
Senioritis.
Right? Yeah, exactly, senioritis. Welcome to the imperfect human condition. So I would offer with you is this. There's one thing that I just want to share about, and then I have a couple poems and I want to just read for you. One thing is this, is that the process here is just what it is to be human. So dreams are born from the hearts and the mind, and only there can they ever die. That is a mantra that I've been holding on to, and that was done by Art Berg. And he was a wheelchair athlete. And so what I have found from when I talk about my trip and planning that thing, the one thing that I really, really learned is that the achievement of doing a dream, the achievement of doing something that's important to you, it's actually a dance between the personal growth of the individual, learning about yourself, who you are, what you're about, what makes up you, and the evolution of an idea, because things don't always stay the same. So you're out, you're seniors, you're going to be having your chance to go do stuff. This is your chance. This is your time. All right. Is it okay if I read you a story I wrote?
Yes.
All right. The story is called Mubu the Morph. All right. Mubu made many morphing mistakes. Sometimes mad, sometimes sad, sometimes glad, sometimes bad. He used the gifts that he had, and always, Mubu grew. He grew in ways he did not know. He grew in ways that did not show. He grew in ways that made him go, and sometimes it was slow. Sometimes when slow, he could not see where he should go, who he should be. Ski in the snow, climb up a tree. Look down below, find you and me. And so, Mubu morphed. He morphed into a bird to fly way up high into the sky. He'd laugh and sing, he'd stop and cry. He said hello, and he said goodbye. He morphed into a shaggy hound, sniffed the ground and searched around, and sadly, he still had not found that heartfelt song, that homebound sound. So he slipped into the sea, morphed into a fish swimming free. Still he wondered if he'd see what to do and who to be. For when he looked inside, not out, for his heart's whisper, not another shout, he started shedding that nagging doubt and began to find out what he's all about. And as he heard that heartfelt song guiding him to where he would belong, his journey turned out not quite so long, for purpose rings out like a gong. I'm a morph. It's what I am. My name is Mubu. It isn't Sam. I get to choose what I'll be. A bird, a hound, fish in the sea. Now each of these, they have a place, a way to shine, and a challenge to face. And this can make me mad or sad. The choice is mine to be had. So now we turn our thoughts to you. What you've learned and how you grew. What you've done and what you'll do with that little Mubu in you. Does anybody have any questions for me? My experience. This is a chance to have just an open convo. There's no right or wrong. And I'm just here to share my story. Just like I said, I have a bipolar condition. And I live with it. So what's up? to me. Listen, it's either this or a PowerPoint for a half hour. You get to pick.
Now wait a minute.
Anybody got any questions? Yes.
How do you cope with your bipolar disorder?
Awesome. Question was how do I cope with a bipolar disorder? So my experience with it is it's when I looked at it like an illness, and these were symptoms that I had to manage, it was a pain in the butt. Because being sick gets really old. What I look at it is I have times of internal distress. I can have times that I'm feeling out of it. I can have times that I'm feeling really, really, really nervous. And I can have times that I'm antsy and I got to go and move and do all stuff around. So what I look at isn't so much how do I cope with an illness. I look at it like how do I do things that are important to me while I'm having some internal discomfort. Does that make sense? So the way human beings deal with that is pretty simple. Number one is, anybody ever heard of a personal mission statement? Businesses have a mission statement, right? So it becomes about who am I going to be? Who am I going to be? And then it's what specific acts can I do while I'm feeling that way? I don't do that because I'm ill. I do that because I want to live, right? There's also some tricks of the trade. Is anybody, when you're feeling uncomfortable, you just want a hug? Can I have a hug, please? Right? That little bit of pressure. You know how that feels good? It does for me. But anyway, it feels good. A lot of times I'll wear an Under Armour shirt, a compression shirt, because I find that constant pressure is helpful. And actually, you might even try it if you've got a test that you're kind of feeling nervous about. Try it. Just try wearing a compression shirt, an Under Armour shirt if you have one, and just see if that helps ground you. I do that. I've done that a lot with kids at school. It's a big part there. So my biggest thing is it's all about having a relationship with myself. How does my body go? How does my body experience stuff? And then what do I do to help keep me focused and do what I want to go do? Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Does this kind of help demystify it a little bit so it's not this weird thing? Yeah, boss.
Did you ever consider suicide?
When I was diagnosed, I was in the hospital because I cut myself. But it wasn't suicide. It was like I was sitting in a room watching my life over move on. And I was so detached from the world. And I had such haunting hollowness and openness. It was very surreal. The hard part about this all was as I was starting to recognize that I was having some trouble, the first thought is, well, I can do this. I'm strong, I can figure this out. And then it got into the point when I realized that I couldn't just do it myself. I had no idea how to ask for help. And I actually had this fear I'm falling apart and I need to protect everyone around me from myself. And then it just got to the point where I literally lived for a month by an alarm clock. It beeped when it was time to get up, I get dressed, and I would set my alarm clock on when I needed to do something. And getting up and getting dressed wiped me out. And by the way, I've also had 5 amateur fights, and I'm 4-1. I did my other one was when I was 36. I went into the cage. I did an MMA fight, and the kid that I fought was 10 years younger than me and 10 pounds of solid muscle heavier. So when I talk about how I get wiped out by this thing, it's not because I'm weak. You know what I mean? It's not about will. It has nothing to do with will. It has nothing to do with personality. It has nothing to do with me wanting to quit. It's a physiological thing that I have to understand, and once I understand it, now I can do something with it. And I don't want it. I would not go to the great vending machine of life and say, bipolar, B12. No, right? So now, just going back to the acceptance ladder. It's not something I go, oh, it's a teacher, and now I'm done. No, I still have times where I'm feeling like this is really hard and unfair, and I don't like this, and I don't want it. So So what I found is it's all about what rung am I on? Where am I at right now? And then how do I go one rung up? And I share this with you because it has nothing to do with having an illness. It has everything to do with just being human. Right? In your life, there are times that you feel like you're cursed. Times that you feel difficult. I'm just offering you this. It took me 12 years to learn this. Don't spend 12 years. Yeah.
Do you feel like people treat you differently when they know what like your condition and like your history? And like how do you deal with somebody who treats you differently?
Awesome question. Now we're getting honest here. This is awesome. Listen, this right now, this is what this whole thing is about. So let me ask you guys this, and again, feel free to be honest. Who here, when I shared my story and I was an occupational therapist and that's what I led with, you had a view, right? Who here had their view of me shift when I shared that I have a bipolar condition? Yeah. That's human. Stigma is huge, and it's not necessarily that we're consciously trying. People with mental illness are the most stigmatized population group in the world right now. Anybody have, okay, lifespan. So let's, lifespan of a typical human being, right? If you have a diagnosis, this is straight statistics. If you have a diagnosis with a mental illness, you have a 25-year less lifespan average. 25 years less. And part of the reason why is when people go into the hospital and are presenting chest pain or something that's difficult with that, and they see psychiatric diagnosis on that, the first doctor is not always the cardiologist. Oftentimes the first doctor is the psychologist to do a psychiatric review. In the meantime, the guy's dying on the table. Now, is there times that people come in and it's all like psychiatric part? Yeah. In a job interview, if you're working and somehow it comes up that the person sitting next to you has diabetes, that's one thing. Comes up the person sitting next to you went to the hospital because he cut himself. That just showed up, number one, it's human. Number two is normal. And number three is that is the stigma. One other thing I'll just put out there is this. As awkward as that is that you just had right there, that stigma that we're dealing with, that's not the real stigma. That's the hardest. The hardest is the self-stigma. I'm the one that's crazy now. I'm the one that's broken now. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling down. How do I do what I want to do? How do I go live my dreams? That's the hardest one. Throw this out. When you're coming up here, when you're uncomfortable and you're coming up to give a presentation, right? It's helpful when you have someone say, hey, good luck. That small bit of acceptance, that small bit of, hey, you're human, let's do this, I believe in you, does so much. But what ends up happening is you get ostracized. Dude, that guy's mental. So you're already feeling hollow and empty. You're already having self-confidence like this. I'm feeling paper thin. And I have people looking at me like I'm mental. That. Oh. I spent. Questions?
Did your mental illness ever cause any major social implications, and how did you overcome them?
I love these questions. I'm seriously, you guys, now we're talking. Well, I'll share this story with you. So, I was living in Rochester, and I was working. I went back to school, got my occupational therapy degree. I was working as an occupational therapist. I came back to Buffalo. I had been gone for 10 years. I was living in Rochester. I came back. And we were looking at decided to shift my meds a little bit because I was born and raised in Clarence. That shift in meds put me into a 3-month high anxiety panic attack for 3 months. And a lot of it is that you got to give your body time to adjust to meds and see what's going on, because so much of it is chemistry. It's you got to kind of figure it out what it's like. I had started a new job, and because I had been gone for 10 years, I did not have a social network. So for presenting yourself in a positive, comforting, hey, let's hang out kind of way when you're like freaking out inside and feeling like you're emotionally drowning, it's very hard. So how do you do that? It came down to this.